Now, the time weighted rate of return, or what we call TWRR, is based on a calculation where we see the change in what is called wealth relative. Okay, so the change in wealth relative, which is equal to 1 plus R. Okay, so the change in wealth relative, if we are talking about a fall of 5%, so that means your return is minus 5%. So in that case, 1 plus R will end up being 1 plus and then minus 5%. Okay, and we can simplify this by doing, first of all, percent will make this 0.05 and then plus minus will give you minus, so 0.05. Okay, and on that basis your wealth relative for that particular year is going to be 0.95. Okay, so we are writing it in decimal form. So one thing you need to keep in mind is wealth relative. Then the next thing we need to calculate is cumulative wealth relative. So cumulative wealth relative is the product of all the year's wealth relatives. Okay, so that means it's going to be the wealth relative. Okay, and let's say if we call that wealth relative. Okay, so WR, so WR1. Okay, WR1, and maybe we can just write it like this: WR1 into WR2 into WRN. Okay, so for many years we do this math and we get ourselves a cumulative wealth relative. Now, the next step is to calculate the time weighted rate of return, okay, which is equal to the cumulative wealth relative brackets raised to the power of 1 by n. And looking at this formula, you'll realize that it is somewhat familiar, and that is because it's the same thing. It is the same thing as the geometric mean. Alright, so now that you have the formula and the steps, we are going to go ahead and do this on spreadsheet. Alright, so here we go. We have return. Okay, our first step over here is to calculate the wealth relatives. Okay, we need to calculate the wealth relatives. So our wealth relative is equal to 1 plus R, and this time around we want it not as a percentage but as a decimal, so I'm just going to get rid of the percentage component. Right, so end up with 0.95, and we repeat that for every year. We get all of the wealth relatives. Okay, so wherever it is a negative value, you get a wealth relative less than 1. Wherever it's a positive value, you get a wealth relative of more than 1. Okay, once we have all of this, we need to multiply them with each other to get cumulative wealth relative. Okay, so remember, that is our next step. We need to multiply WR1 into WR2 all the way to WRN. Okay, so this is as good as WR1, WR2, WR3, 4, 5. So we're multiplying all of these numbers. Okay, and I'm just going to write the cumulative. Okay, the cumulative wealth relative. and let's make this a little neater. Okay, cumulative wealth relative we put down over here. Okay, which is equal to this number multiplied by this number multiplied by this number multiplied by this number multiplied by this number. Okay, so we get a cumulative wealth relative of 1.3396, and once we have this number, we are in a position to calculate time weighted rate of return, which is nothing but the geometric mean of the number we got upstairs. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it to the power 1 by 5. Okay, and why 1 by 5? Because 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, count it, you will get 5 years. Right? So our time weighted rate of return is 1.0602. Okay, 1.06021. But this is again, this isn't exactly a time weighted rate of return. So if we have to go back and adjust this formula, okay, time weighted rate of return is this minus 1. Okay, so if I was to subtract 1 from what we just got, alright, so if we were to subtract 1 from our number over here, okay, we are going to end up with 6.021, and let's multiply this into 100, okay, up to 2 decimal places, and we end up with this number. Okay, and for those of you who are using Excel, you could actually make it easier. Could make it easier by simply going here and pressing the % button, and then decide how many decimal places you want it for. Alright, so I hope this has been simple. Okay, very straightforward set of formulae. Remember the formulae, substitute and solve when you get your answer. Any doubts, feel free to message in the comments. Thank you.